it's your girl Dee from That's Just TMI. I'm here with my girl Tiffany Don. She got it going on. You're here, Beth. And we've got a special guest for you today, a treat. We've got Senator Gabriela Morris. Fun fact, I actually used to babysit Gabby way back when I used to live in Jamaica. Yep, it's a small world, and it's so amazing to see all the things that she has done and what she's accomplished. So we're going to get into this interview and we're going to hear from the youngest senator in Jamaica. So,
is that appropriate? Or
yes, it is appropriate, Tiff. So, Gabriela, should I call you Gabriela or can I call you Gabby?
Gabby's fine.
Perfect, because I've been trying to train my brain to say Gabriela, and I'm like, I know her as Gabby. So,
Gabby's fine.
Perfect. Gabby, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So first, thanks, guys, for having me on. It's such a great opportunity to share with you guys. I always enjoy sharing my story because I think that there's so much positive impact that can come out of it, especially for young people, young women, young Black women. So it's really, really, really a pleasure to be here. You want me to tell you about myself? I am a young woman. So at the time when I was appointed, I was 23. I'm now 24. So I'm growing up, big kid now. I'm also a student. So I just finished my bachelor's in pharmacology, and I'm trying to finish up my master's in communication for social and behavioral change. So that's at the University of the West Indies. Additionally, I think of myself as a change maker. I think of myself as it's hard to say, but politician. There are some negative connotations that come with that. Mm-hmm. But I think I represent a new generation of political leaders who understand the importance of creating a sustainable future, and putting in place measures that will allow for the creation of a world that young people feel comfortable to enjoy. So it's really a great opportunity to be young, to be a political representative, because young people aren't normally considered, the face of politics or the persons who should be leading the political charge. But what we see is that young persons are now taking up that mantle and realizing that they have such a tremendous role to play in shaping the future. So I consider myself a change maker because there's so much work to be done, and I'm happy to be one of the voices for my generation, leading this charge.
Wow. So it is interesting that you are a senator, right? At the age of 24.
When I say to people, sometimes they look at me like, what?
Yeah, I'm over here giving you a little because
it's out of the box. And when you look at global trends politically, you have so few young people who are in these spaces occupying roles such as being a senator. I was privileged to meet another young woman. I think she turned 24 too, but at the time she was 23. She is from Namibia, and she's also a minister. She's a deputy minister, and the youngest parliamentarian like myself. So you do have young persons, but it's not commonplace. And I believe that we're gonna get there, but right now there's so few of us that it's very unimaginable to some persons, So I have to say, yeah, I'm a real one, a real senator.
And how does that feel to be like the youngest senator? Like,
it's mind blowing sometimes, because
I bet
it is because Deandra would know me as a young woman, a young baby from Montego Bay, St. James, and I can't say that I really sat and thought it out that, I'm gonna be a senator or I'm gonna be an MP. It was more something that came as a shock to me in many ways. But it does feel remarkable. It feels like a great opportunity. I wouldn't say a burden, but it's definitely something that can be overwhelming, knowing that there's so much expected of you, knowing that, you're the first, so people want to see what you're going to do, what you're going to say. So it's a lot of pressure in that regard. But it also feels like an opportunity, as I said, because persons are actually looking on to see what can young people bring to the table.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to prove. So having that in mind, sometimes it's pressuring because I want to do my best, I want to represent well. So it kind of keeps me on my toes, just knowing I'm the first to do it. So I think I'm finding that balance, and becoming more motivated by the fact that so much is expected. And I'm hoping to just contribute so much to the space so that other young people can be able to enter and have that confidence that they can do it too.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
You mentioned motivation, and I want to know what keeps you motivated. What's that drive behind all of this?
You know, number of things. My support system. In the last few months with COVID and everything happening, and graduating from university, we know the pressure that can put on young people. Where am I gonna work? What am I gonna do? What's next? So I went through that, and then in the midst of all that, we had COVID, and that was a struggle in itself. And then I was thrust into this new role of being a senator. So I found that during this time it became so important for me to have persons who I could lean on, and have persons who I could bounce ideas off, persons who could just simply be a shoulder when I needed to cry, because I cried a lot. But I found that my support system really, really, really pushed me on during this time. Additionally, after I was appointed, I would get messages like every day from people from not just Jamaica but across the world, just bigging me up and congratulating me and spurring me on. So that was a huge motivator for me, just knowing that people were watching, persons believed in me. So that was good for me. And during the last few months, I've had the opportunity of speaking to so many young people, not just across Jamaica, but across the world. And the response has been so motivating, just knowing that there are young people out there who want to play a role, who want to support, who want to get involved. That's just motivating for me, because it says to me that your whole mission of being an inspiration and motivation for other young people, it's coming to fruition. They are motivated to enter politics. They are motivated to raise their voice on issues. So I'm continuously motivated when I see that young people are fired up and they're ready to take up their role in society.
Okay, so you spoke about what motivates you, but and you also spoke about your community and those around you. Was there anyone inside or outside of your community who inspired you, or someone who is currently inspiring you?
Well, I'd say within the political space, we already know that there are challenges with the numbers of women that we have in politics. So there are very few. I mean, this year was a historical year in that we saw record numbers of women entering Jamaican politics, and not just running, but also winning. So that was a huge step. And in the Senate, there was a commitment rather for us to have gender parity. So on each side of the house, they wanted to have, I believe, at least 30% women. On the opposition benches where I sit, we have 4 women and 4 men. So we achieved that, and I was very happy about that. But going back to the issue of women, one of my huge political inspirations is Portia Simpson Miller. Off the bat, as a young girl, she was really one of the very few representations of women in the political space. And so just seeing how she maneuvered, seeing how she was able to inspire the trust and support of people is something that really inspired me and inspired my political journey. Because one of the things that's important to me is the people. Because if we forget, the people, then we're in trouble as politicians, because they're the ones who we're supposed to serve. So she really inspired that sense of, people-centric leadership, I like to term it. And that's something that has stuck with me in all my leadership experiences. Just that need for a relationship and a close bond and trust and respect between me and the people. So she's definitely one of my inspirations. Um, there are other young people in the space who continue to inspire me. I was on a interview Monday, yeah, International Women's Day, with another young woman. It was the second time we were interviewing together. And, she continues to inspire me. She's involved in agriculture. And as a young woman in a space where, again, you don't see as many women taking part, I really respect her drive and her vision. And she really inspired me because agriculture is something that I now want to really get into. So I'm on that journey too, and it was another young person, another young woman that sparked that fire. And she said to me, it was as if she was saying, you can do it too. Yeah. So I took that from it. Yeah, I'd say that there are a number of young persons that I have the privilege of meeting, and just their passion for what they do, it continues to inspire me to do more.
Awesome.
I know, right? So have you faced any obstacles, I guess, that you are able to share with us in this heavily masculine profession or field that you've now entered? Oh, wait, before you answer, and I guess my next question would be, how have you handled that obstacle? So it's twofold.
Okay. As I said, there are not as many women in the political space. So of course, sometimes we are outnumbered. And I guess sometimes what I've learned is that we have to really assert ourselves. I haven't faced it as much where, I'm called down or not listened to. I guess, persons want to hear what I have to say, being the youngest. So I haven't faced that as yet. But what I will say is that there is this constant, like a closer eye is placed on us as young women, especially. I've received a lot of criticism, especially coming in, being appointed for, being too young, be not ready, not having enough experience. And then you have persons who even want to take it a step further to, they're trying to wonder, how did I get here? And so you have persons insinuating sexual innuendos to say, that's how I ended up in the space. So it's crazy. Like, it's crazy that, you have persons online who would take it that far. So as a young woman, sometimes it can be intimidating because you're saying, oh, is this the only way that you think a woman can reach this position or get in these spaces? So there are those challenges that continue to persist for women, especially younger women who enter politics. Persons online in general can be very, very nasty. For me, at least, and my boyfriend is always saying, don't pay them any mind, don't read it. But sometimes, get in your head and you read it, but I try not to.
You semi-answered one of my questions that I was going to ask you. Ask it anyway.
So there is that kind of pressure that comes with it. I'd say one of the things though is that being so new to the political space and not having as much experience as everybody else in the room can sometimes be intimidating. And that's one thing that I've had to work on overcoming, just understanding that It's not that I won't get there. It's not that I won't know. It's just that I don't know everything as yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not such a bad thing, because it gives me the opportunity now to really go out there and seek out that information. It gives me the opportunity to learn as much as I can. So I've had to, force myself to have that kind of confidence, even when there are persons out there who would try to I dare say, downplay my role and my impact. So I'm getting there, and I think that it requires a lot of practice. It requires a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, but self-motivation, just basically reminding myself that I'm in the space for a reason, and it's the things that I've done before that have garnered me access to the space. So I have to dispel all those, naysayers and those other ideas that may be out there, and just keep focused and work towards that. So it's a lot of mental tenacity.
Yeah.
You have to have spinal tenacity and mental fortitude, to really get by as a young person in the space. So I'm working on it, and I'm grateful for persons who continue to inspire me, who continue to speak confidence and speak blessings over me. So that's really a plus and a blessing overall.
Yeah, I think to speak to what you just said, like having that mental fortitude, I think that goes for people in any space, like women in any space, because our world is so male centered. You really just have to, like, when women do well, it's amazing that the first thing I'm gonna say the audience would go to, or speculation would be using their sexuality to achieve, right? And not giving way to the knowledge you have acquired, the experience you have acquired. That blows me every time. Okay, it blows my mind every time. But I love what you said. You said you need the mental fortitude and the spinal
tenacity.
Oi. Me and my Shando.
That's right.
Yes. So moving on. How do you feel about making history as one of the youngest? Like, this is historical. Dare I say, you feel almost Kamala-ish, right? Honestly, you're like the Kamala.
Jamaica Kamala moment, yes.
I'm just, that's what I felt in my spirit, but speak on it.
It's so overwhelming, because it really strikes you that in a couple of years, you'll be looking back at pictures of your younger self, and you remember, the sheer excitement that came with that appointment. And it feels so great, because I know that young people will be able to look back and say, this was done. Because as Deandra opened by saying, a lot of young people don't see themselves in these positions, because of the sheer fact that we think that it's reserved for older persons. So you don't even try to aspire to it. You don't even start to consider it as an avenue for you to participate. But what I see happening is that young persons are saying, oh, I can be an MP, I can be a senator as young as I am. And I think that's great for our democracy, because we need young people to be involved. We need young people to participate. And that's really why it's so significant for me historically, because it signals the shift in our political history, where we see young people actually recognizing that they have such a valid role to play. It started a few years ago when Twitter became a very vocal space on political issues, but we didn't have young people participating at the level, becoming MPs, becoming senators, being involved in being on boards, even government boards. So we saw that shift taking place where they started to participate online. So you had that kind of engagement. And now we're at the point where we see that young people can be involved in the highest decision making bodies in the
Right,
country.
you're at the table.
Yeah, we now have a seat at the table. And so you have so many more young people aspiring to enter the room, aspiring to sit down, aspiring to make their voices heard. And that's why I think it's so significant historically. What I'm hoping is that by the next election, we'll start to see if even more women, enter in the political space, and young women especially, because we know that there's a significant challenge with getting young women elected. Because I go back to what I was saying before, the challenges that young women face when entering politics, representational politics, that is, they are so much more greater than the challenges that males face. So even showing up as a woman is deemed as being very, almost too ambitious, I dare say. But I'm happy to see that women are challenging these notions, and they're showing up, and they're showing up as themselves very much authentically, and they're doing their thing. So I'm so happy for the moves that we've made toward this point, and I'm just looking forward to more young people entering, to more historic appointments of young people, because that's progress for me. We're getting to a point where young people will be those who will have to, just create the future. And so for them to do that, they have to get involved. They have to have that seat at the table. It can't be that we leave them excluded and make decisions on their behalf that they'll have to live with for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's important that they get in the space, they get in the arena, and just do their part.
So how does one become a senator? Like, what steps did you specifically take?
Yeah, so it's a good question, because in my mind, to speak to what Deandra's asking, like, it takes years. So sis, what's the secret sauce?
Yeah. What is it?
Well, in Jamaica, the upper house is normally reserved for persons who have significant experience in different areas. So it can be economics, it can be public service, it can be law, it can be gender affairs, can be science, but it's normally reserved for persons who've had long-standing experience in the area. However, so I'll tell you the story of how I was actually, called. I was literally walking to the supermarket one day on campus because I was doing this ice cream sale and I wanted to go get some stuff. So I was just doing that, and my phone rang and I wasn't going to answer it because I thought it was one of the students on hall. So I actually work on hall as a resident advisor. So I thought it was one of them, so I wasn't going to answer them. But then, a voice just said answer, and I was like,
the Holy Spirit,
So I answered, and when I answered, I realized that it was the leader of the opposition, Dr. Phillips. And, he said he wanted me to sit in the opposition benches as a senator. And I was like, what? You sure you're calling the right person? And he said, yes, Gabriela Morris. And I was like, yes, this is me, but are you sure? Are you really sure? And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, because I mean, when destiny comes knocking, you don't say no. Like, I was like, okay. And then he was like, okay, he's gonna call me back to arrange for swearing in and so on. When he said that, I thought like swearing in would be a month from then. It was actually a couple days later. So I had to just like on the fly, what do I do? Get ready, get a team together. What do I do in this situation? So it was very fast paced. Nobody has ever really told me what really led to my appointment. I
I
know
was
that.
gonna ask you that. Like, what are your credentials? Like,
Yeah.
what they didn't just call Gabriela. I feel like they were watching you, sis.
They had
So
to.
okay, let's take a little background to it. So before that, I was involved as a youth advocate, as a student leader on campus. Um,
Okay.
so our campus is very much a microcosm of the large of the national political scene. So being on the guild is considered like a prerequisite or to enter in the political space because Andrew Holness, he ran for guild president like myself. He lost, but nonetheless. So quite a few of our politicians were on the guild of students. That's where they actually, it was a training ground for them. So I ran in 2 guild elections before that. First for hall chairwoman of the Mary Seacole Hall, the only female hall on the campus. So it's a sorority. And then I ran for first vice president of the guild.
Okay.
So
So did you
after
get
that,
any of those?
so again,
Did you get any of those
yeah,
positions?
man, I won both. I
Okay.
won both of them. And then I decided to run for president.
Okay.
When I ran for president, it was a crazy election because the election was actually put off about twice because of COVID. So normally we're running face-to-face elections. So you get to go out, you get to campaign, get to meet people, you get to do speeches, all of that. We that had to be scrapped completely. So new game plan, we went fully online. So we had to campaign fully online, and so that was very new for us as as persons contesting an election because we're so used to the face-to-face campaigning. So we had to really think on the fly, how am I going to reach these people who are at home in 13 other parishes, 14 other parishes? How am I going to develop a strategy that will engage them sufficiently, that will really motivate them to come out and vote? And so that was a stress in itself. The online election, it was the first online election in the 50-odd year history of the guild. So, and lots of historic things happened to me last year. So I was actually the first person, not just the first woman, but the first person to contest an online election. And so we did that. I didn't end up winning that one. So
Because the Lord had greater for you.
Better thing.
like coming out of the election though, because one of the things that I always echoed during the months, because remember I tell you it was drawn out for many months. Normally it's just a 2-week campaign. We were campaigning for months. So the pressure that can put on somebody. And one of the things that I was just continuously saying is, God, just let your will be done. Whatever path you are leading me on, I am just allowing you. And I remember in the morning of the voting, I was in the shower and I just said, God, whatever it is that you desire from me, just have your way. I'm not even gonna get too anxious about it. Just do your thing. And I went through the day and, it was announced that we didn't win. And my team, they were disappointed, obviously. But I just had this feeling that there was something more. And, I wanted them to enjoy and revel in the fact that we did such a great job, and we indeed achieved something. Because one of the things that I set out to do in that election was to really inspire people. From the get-go, when they asked me, what do you want the campaign to look like? I said I want it to be inspirational. I want students to feel that though everything is crumbling around them, there is some safe haven, there is some help for them. And that was one of the things that I continued to inspire and try to do. So I guess coming out of that election, even though I lost, it was still something that was remarkable, something commendable. Even persons from the governing party, they were still so surprised, I guess that I actually ran such a good campaign. So it did have an impact. It did leave a mark, and I suspect that was one of the things that really really gave me some a foot in to the conversation, but nobody has really told me before what was the deliberation process like. So I really don't know in full, but I just, I just take it that they saw my performance, they saw my passion for young people and for youth advocacy and for empowerment of young people and providing opportunities for them. And that's something that I continue to do. I think that's one of the hallmarks of my leadership, just being an advocate for opportunities for the youth of the country.
Wonderful.
And
So,
apart from that, I was also involved in the youth arm of the party. So I did have that background in the political space. I also worked for a short time on one of the internal campaigns. So I was involved in the internal operations of the party for a little while before that. So that gave me also a platform in the political space.
okay, and what would be your favorite part of this? We heard what is the challenging part.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what is the favorite part?
I'd say definitely interacting with other young people.
Mhm.
From time to time, different groups might call me in to be a guest speaker or to do an interview like this, and it's always such an opportunity and good feeling to really just share some positive messages
Mhm.
and kind of talk to young people in a way that they can understand and relate to, and really show them that, there's so much more that is possible for you, regardless of where you're from, regardless of which school you went to, regardless of how many CXCs you have. There is still something possible for you, and you can do great things once you put your mind to it. So it's always such a good feeling, and it always lifts my spirit when I'm able to talk to young people and hear their views and hear the challenges that they're facing and see how we can arrive at solutions. So that's always such a lifting experience for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite part. The other part's stress.
Wow, that's so good. So, Gabby, what are your long-term career goals? So you're a senator now. You were a
Mhm.
senator at 23. You're now 24. Like, and you have so much of your life ahead of you. What's next?
So much.
um, you know, uh, when I finish my master's, I actually want to work a little bit. So I'm doing communication for social and behavioral change. I want to get into some practice, whether doing my own consultancy or working with the government. But that's definitely an area that I think is really necessary for the development of the country. Social change, like we have so many social ills that we really need to place an emphasis on and really have systematic ways of dealing with them. So I'm very much interested in venturing off into that area. Additionally, I want to venture off into business, entrepreneurship. I'm taking my time to kind of find my footing and what I want to do. So I'm working on that as a long-term goal for the next few years. Additionally, I mean, I don't know, like I I just intend on contributing. I don't know if I'll be in the political space after 5 years, but I do keep that option open because I think it's such a good way of contributing, of giving back, of really making valid contribution to the development of the country. But the political space can be so fickle. So, I don't even know what will happen there. But I always say that I'll follow the leading, I'll follow God's leading, I'll follow the leading of the people. And I mean, if they do call me back to serve, I'm always open to that, whether in the upper or lower house. I'm open to that possibility. But yeah, in the next few years, I'll be old. In the
No,
next
you
5 years,
will not. Stop it.
very old.
Stop it. Stop. Okay.
Older, okay. I'll
Yes,
be very much
older.
older and much more experienced, especially in legislation. I don't know if there's a law degree somewhere around there or a doctorate. But educationally, I think I want to continue in the academic sphere. Right now, I'm working on a paper, so I'm seeing where that goes. But yeah, I'm giving myself 5 years to really blossom and to really learn as much as I can and invest as much as I can in the future of the country.
Okay, so you've told us that you're in school right now, right?
Mhm.
Correct? Are you working at the same time?
Well, being an RA is pretty much a full-time job.
Okay. Yeah.
um, so I go to school. Well, it's supposed to be part-time, but it's full-time. They tricked me. They
What's the trick?
really tricked me, man. So I do that. I'm an RA and then I'm a senator. So most times that takes up all 24 hours.
So, but how do you create that balance within all of those?
I mean, prioritizing, definitely scheduling has become my
Yeah.
best friend. Yes, I have to write it down or else I won't remember. And then I'll end up turning up at meetings that start 3 o'clock. I'll turn up at 6 o'clock. So I really have to keep it together and keep that tight schedule. Uh, and really just being clear on what I can and cannot do. Like I've had to just say no to some things just because it's gonna put a lot of pressure on me to meet those deadlines or responsibilities, so I have to be very clear about that. Um and also having people in my space who understand the burdens that come with the roles, who understand that I will need their help from time to time. And I'm very thankful for those people who really hold me up on days when, it gets really hard to just hold up yourself. So, my boyfriend, he will always get up and make breakfast for me because he knows that my mornings are crazy. So yeah, he's amazing. Him over there smiling. So, just having those people, having mommy
Shout
and
out to Bay.
I'm so thankful because sometimes mommy was saying, fish for me, when I can't really go out and get stuff for myself. So I do have that support system and that really helps with managing all that comes with these different roles. Um, yeah, I try to keep up. Some days I don't. Some days I really don't, and I just have to stop and say, "Yeah, this is it. This is
I
it for me."
appreciate that. I appreciate the realism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes we can't do it all.
yeah.
Sometimes.
You have to understand that you're human too, even though you're trying to be superhuman. You're
Mm.
human, and your body will remind you of that from time to time.
Yeah.
So before it reminds you of that, sometimes you have to just take your own cues and listen and do what you need to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, what advice would you give to any young men or young women who want to go into politics or who are looking to follow a similar career path? What would you tell them?
Get out there and do it. Get out there and get
Your bed and
involved.
walk.
I mean, as university students, I always say that in Jamaica we're afforded this opportunity to network and to really get involved with persons who are thriving in the political space. And so sometimes you just have to show up. Sometimes you just have to say, this is what I'd like to do, this is what I'm interested in. And from persons like me, at least, who never even said that, sometimes you just have to allow your work to speak for you.
Mm.
So if you're interested in politics, if you're interested in youth development, get involved with groups, with social groups who do this kind of work, and play your part. I trust that persons will see your involvement, persons will see your passion for the area, and naturally, I think you will be led to spaces like politics where you'll be able to show off your skills and show off your drive. But we do have to contend as young people with various barriers. Let's not be dishonest about that, because there are still barriers that prevent young people from getting involved in the political space. And so it takes persons like me who are in the space who understand these challenges to continue to speak out about it so that it will be easier for persons after to get involved. So I always encourage other young persons who are involved in politics, not just to deal with things because it serves you at the moment, but also understand that there's a greater responsibility that is placed on us to really open the door and hold it open for other young people. Right? So I'm in the space and I'm not selfish with it. You know, if there's an opportunity for another young person to have a platform or to share, then I welcome that. You understand? And that's what we as young people have to do if we want to get involved in the space and make the space more welcoming for other young persons. I'd also say to them, you know, don't be daunted by the remarks that other persons might make, because in getting there, you're going to have persons who are saying you should wait your turn, you're too young, you're not experienced enough, what can you contribute? Don't listen to them, because half of these older persons in politics, some of, you know, they're really much just self-conscious, and they, some of them even think that you're coming there to take their spot, so they'll say everything that they can to keep you out. So just understand that you have a lot to contribute. The world is changing and young people have so many perspectives that are going to be useful in moving forward. So we need youth in the space. So don't listen to them. Like, I mean, listen to persons who are offering advice that can be useful, that is constructive, but there are going to be persons who are just saying, you know, a load of foolishness. Leave those ones out, but find mentors also. That's important. Find mentors who will guide you in the space and who will offer positive reinforcement. So that's important too. I know I just said a mouthful, but mentorship, don't listen to foolishness, and really leave the door open for other young people. So that they can come into the space and participate, because we all can win. That's my sheer belief. We all can win. It's not that one young person needs to be in parliament. We have space for other young people to come in. So we really have to have that collective mindset that we can do great things when we all come together as young people.
Wow, that was so well said. Well, I have nothing else to add. Gabby, thank you so much for taking the opportunity and time from your day to be a part of That's Just TMI. Guys, we are making history here today. We are talking to the youngest senator to be appointed in Jamaica. Thank you. And it's Women's History Month, Women's Month. So this is amazing. Thank you for speaking.
Phenomenal.
Right, so honestly and openly with us, and you allowed yourself to be vulnerable. And I think young people listening to this have now the tools and sufficient information that they need if they do want to go into this career path. So again, thank you so much. This is That's Just TMI, where we are thought-provoking, motivational, inspirational. Thanks for watching That's Just TMI. Have a great rest of the day. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.